Hello, 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 welcome. Welcome to Homemade. Hi, everybody. Welcome in. Thanks for joining us. Lots of familiar faces. If you are new to Homemade, please, we love to have you participate. Turn on your cameras, cook along, take notes, ask questions. I'm Chef Diana, so happy to be here with our partner, the New York Beef Council, doing an absolutely delicious casserole tonight. Elote Enchilada Pie. It is delicious. Come on in. So happy to see you all. Chef Diana here, so happy to be here with our partner, New York Beef Council. Delicious. We're using ground beef tonight in this recipe. And Meg, hi Meg.
Hello, sorry, I couldn't turn my mic on for a second.
We got you now.
Hi, happy Tuesday.
Same to you. It's great to be here with you doing this delicious casserole dish tonight. Super excited. And to our partners, delicious, New York Beef Council, thanks for this terrific recipe and sharing it with us. And we're happy to share it with you. I'm Chef Diana with Meg in the chat, so please have her answer any questions you have. The website's in there, delicious recipes, nutritional information, all kinds of information on cooking different cuts of beef, different kinds of beef, best cooking techniques, and lots and lots and lots of good information there. So again, we're using ground beef in this delicious recipe tonight, but lots of information on that website, so definitely check it out. So we're gonna get started tonight with just talking about, well, first of all, I love this recipe. There's so much I love about this recipe, and I find myself saying that standing right here at the beginning of every class I teach at Homemade. I love this recipe, and there's so much to love about this recipe, but it's so true. So things that I love about this recipe is that the flavors are really amazing. The beef, the ground beef we're using tonight is you can buy different types of meat. You can buy grass-fed, you can buy organic, you can buy regular ground beef, you can modify the fat content, which we'll talk about a little bit later on once we start cooking the ground beef. So you have lots and lots of options in choosing what type of ground beef you want to use. So any of them would work for this recipe. Absolutely delicious, because there's so many other layers of flavors going on, and we're sort of mimicking the Mexican, kind of the street corn, with the cotija, the tangy, creamy, roasty, spicy cheese and lime juice. And so we're sort of mimicking that flavor profile in this casserole. So we have those bright, summery, light flavors in here, but it's a hearty dish. And also it is a hearty dish, but we're incorporating fresh corn because fresh corn is in season right now. So we're incorporating a nice summer vegetable into this casserole dish. So I really love that. That's one of the things I love about it. And also, if you've been to my classes before, you know how much I love leftovers. I love leftovers. And this casserole actually, I think, gets better with time. So it's gonna be delicious right out of the oven tonight, but also when you put it in the refrigerator and you reheat it for lunch tomorrow, it is also absolutely fantastic.
Would you eat it for breakfast?
I would eat it for breakfast. I typically don't eat breakfast. I'm sort of kind of an intermittent faster, meaning I don't eat for, a certain period of the day. But if I was gonna eat breakfast, which I do occasionally, I would totally eat it for breakfast, absolutely. Wonderful. So any time of day, right? So the recipe calls for pickled jalapenos, but we're gonna make them because it's really, really fast to make them. You can buy a really good quality pickled jalapeno in a jar, prepped ahead of time, and that's completely fine, but I just thought it would be really fun to show you how to pickle the jalapenos because it's very simple. And again, peppers in the warmer months are in season, so you can get some nice fresh peppers and then pickle them. So the other thing about the beef, if you do end up buying the beef, especially if you buy it in a larger amount, sometimes you'll buy it at the bigger stores in a 3-pack or a 4-pack or something like that. Just freeze it. Ground beef freezes so well if you keep it in its original package without really losing quality. And you can freeze it for quite a long time and then just pull it out without sacrificing any of the quality, I think. So again, you can buy it in bulk and then freeze it and just use the 1 pound if you're making this casserole one time, like we are tonight. So for the pickled jalapenos, I cut up some ahead of time. These are humongous jalapenos. They've been washed, and I'm just slicing them in rings. So I'm gonna go ahead and just cut off the top. And I'm not gonna worry about the seeds in the jalapeno. We're looking for a little kick. We're gonna pour some pickling liquid on top, and I'm really not worried about the seeds. Often I find that the seeds will actually sink to the bottom of your container that you're pickling in, and you don't have to, if you're somebody who doesn't like coming across seeds when you're eating something, you don't have to really deal with them. So I would not get too hung up on it. Now do remember, jalapenos are rolly and will roll onto the floor. We'll just leave that one there till after class. They are very hot, they have hot oils. So be really careful if you just keep prepping away, and I know you wash your hands and everything, but you keep prepping away and you inadvertently touched your side of your eye or something, ouch, that can really hurt. So just be really careful when you're working with any hot chili pepper. And then if you happen to get some in your eye, just rinse it out with cold water. Even sometimes stick your hand underneath the sink and just rinse it out with cold water. And it should stop burning soon, okay? But they have pretty intense oils, so they can be really hot. You just have to kind of be careful. I have a pickling liquid on the stove, and what I put in there tonight is 2 tablespoons of sugar, 1 cup of water, 1 cup of distilled white vinegar, and a teaspoon of salt. Now you could put a lot of different things in here if you want. You could put some little dried red chilies if you like a little more kick, although we've got the jalapenos. You could use a different sweetener. You could incorporate, you could use some honey to incorporate that flavor. You could even, I don't know, it'd be fun with this recipe. What do you think, Meg, about putting in like a little bit of tequila or something maybe, or just kind of zipping it up a little bit?
Oh, I would not have thought of that, but that sounds awesome. Or mezcal.
Wouldn't that be good in a pickling liquid?
I have a question about the vinegar. Like, how do you feel about using different types of vinegars for pickling?
I'm glad you asked. I love using different types of vinegars. So typically, in my experience, a pickling liquid would have white distilled vinegar. You're going to be able to really see what you're pickling nicely because it's clear. Other vinegars have, more flavor to them, a balsamic vinegar. I make a maple vinegar at home that's absolutely delicious, but it's really dark in color. I probably would not, the white distilled is very inexpensive, so that's a good reason to use it for pickling too, because it does a really adequate job for the price. And there's a lot of vinegars available, isn't there? Red vinegar, white wine vinegar is good. It's a little more mild. It's not quite as intense as the distilled, so lots of options. That's a great question. Thank you for asking that. So we're just going to bring this to a simmer and the pickling liquid all together. I took 2 garlic cloves and I just put them under the knife and I just smashed them. So I didn't chop them, and I wanted to release a little more flavor, so I didn't just throw them in there. I smashed them with the flat side of a knife, so that will extract the flavor into the pickling liquid. So if you think about like dropping a tea bag into liquid, and then the tea in the tea bag infuses into the water, creating your delicious tea, we're doing the same thing with the garlic cloves. We've had to expose the interior, so we smashed them, put them in there, and then the garlic flavor is being dispersed within that liquid. Okay, so that's the reason for the smashing of them. And they look kind of pretty when they're in the pickling jar as well. So we're just going to take the pickling liquid, and it has come to a simmer. Sugar has dissolved, and then we'll just very carefully ladle it over. I have more than I need here. There's nothing perishable in this pickling liquid, so it would last. And then when you go to the market, the farmer's market, and you buy something, green beans, what else is out there that we could pickle? Green beans, rhubarb, pickled rhubarb. Is it too late
for asparagus, do you think?
I think it's getting a little late for asparagus here for us. red onions, right? So we're just gonna let that sit. I'm gonna put the lid on there, and those are so pretty. You could even can them. You could seal them properly, put them into a canning jar. And that's all there is to it. Super simple, really inexpensive ingredients, and lots of options for pickling different things. So that is an ingredient in this recipe that I love, the pickled jalapenos, and then and really pickling them takes a little bit of the heat off of them too. And then we're going to use some of the pickling juice in there as well. So I'll show you that in just a couple of minutes. So those are off to the side. Those are on their way to pickling. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to start preparing the onions and the garlic for sautéing. So we're going to use this beautiful cast iron enamel coated pan for the casserole. So we're going to cook in it, and then we're going to bake the casserole in it, which is kind of a nice thing. And it creates a rustic look, and it also cuts down on our dishwashing, which everybody loves, right? Everybody loves that. Less dishes. I try and cook at home using as few dishes as possible, but it's really nice when you can actually cook and present in the same dish. Sauté, cook, and then present also. It makes a nice looking dish. If you don't have a cast iron, you could certainly just use a sauté pan and prepare this dish in a normal casserole dish. So on the cutting board, I have 1 medium onion that's been washed. I'll go through this a little quickly. I've demonstrated this a couple of times. Our knife skills are super important. Seize up on the knife, so my hand is not back here on the knife where I don't have a lot of control. I'm actually have my thumb and my pointer finger on the blade of, not the blade itself, but on the knife, okay? On the top of the knife here, on the metal part. I'm gonna cut the onion in a small dice. So I'm gonna cut it in half, pole to pole. That's how we used to say it in culinary school, meaning from the sprout end to the root end. So through, and then I'm gonna cut the sprout end off just a little bit. And we're going to use this entire onion. The recipe calls for 1 medium, and this is truly 1 medium onion. Sometimes it's hard to, you don't want to spend 10 minutes in the grocery store going through the onions looking for a medium onion. You might use a half of a big onion, or you might use 2 small onions, but this is a really nice medium-sized onion. I'm going to peel back the layers until I get to usable onion. So sometimes that's 1, sometimes it's 2 layers, okay, as few as possible. And then I'm just going to take a slice down on the root end, but I'm not going to cut all the way through to the layers, because that's what's going to cause the onion to kind of start falling all over the place, kind of like where that jalapeno went a few minutes ago, okay, all over the place. So that's going to hold it together, which you'll see in just a minute here. So peel the layers back on the other half, and then straight down, but not all the way through. And then I'm going to very carefully, safety first, come through, holding my hand like this, pressing down on the onion. I'm going to make some cuts through like that, but not all the way through to the other side. And then I'll cut small dice, is about 1/4 inch this way, and then across.
This is one of those things where you really do want a sharp knife.
Yes.
Like knife safety, doing that with a dull knife, you're so much more likely to cut yourself.
Absolutely, absolutely. And how do we know that, Meg? How do you know that, and how do I know that? Because we've done it. Have you done it? Yeah.
Maybe not in the onion technique, which is kind of a scary thing, but yes. Maybe,
Yeah.
I feel like while making a bagel, I've cut myself.
Yeah.
Cutting a tomato, things like that.
Yeah, sharp knives are actually a lot safer. And we have sharp knives here at Homemade. One more reason I love this job. One more reason, like I need another reason to love this job. I love this job. Okay, so let me do the other half. All the way, but not, coming almost all the way. Flat hand. Let's do another one. 1/4 inch across, all the way down, and then across. And then when you start getting to the point where it gets a little bit wobbly, meaning it's really tall and skinny, I have my little claw hand here, okay? I'm not like this, where my fingers could potentially be in the way of the blade. And then I'm going to go to that flat side. I'm going to make some small slices around like this. And then I'm going to do that rocking motion with my knife. Cross, rotate, other side. You want to use as much as possible, right? All the way down to that little root end, and that goes into our soups or stocks or sauces or something maybe later on. And then we've got our onion, and see, it really didn't spread out. Sometimes I see people cutting onions and it's like everywhere. Okay, so it kind of stays in a nice neat pile. We're gonna go ahead and start sauteing the onion because we need a few minutes. A good 5 minutes is nice. I'm gonna pour the olive oil into the pan. And then we'll go ahead and get a nice little sizzle. So we're not gonna, we could caramelize a little bit, meaning browning a little bit, but not overdo it. We're not trying to char these. There's so much already going on in this dish, flavor-wise, that just works and pairs so nicely that we don't want to mess with it too much. We got a good thing going on. Don't mess with it, right? So we'll adjust the heat as necessary. When you put something, that amount of something cool into a hot pan, it's immediately going to cool the pan down a little bit. So you always want to wait and then evaluate. So did it cool it down enough that I should leave the heat where it's at? Or do I want a little more heat, or do I want a little less heat? But when you put something, a large amount of something into a pan, it's going to cool the pan down. 2 garlic cloves. I'm going to go ahead and they go in after the onion. Garlic is going to cook and burn potentially a lot quicker than the onions are. So it goes in later after the onions have had a few minutes. Okay, so therefore I can get the onions started and then start chopping the garlic. Not to get distracted and go do something else, because the garlic has to go in pretty soon. So that can happen sometimes at home. The doorbell rings, you know, something happens. But we do need to get it prepped so it can go in pretty soon. And just standing here, I've noticed the sizzling in the pan has subsided quite a bit, which means my pan is cooling down. I'm not going to adjust the heat yet. I may actually turn it up here in a couple of minutes, though. So we'll go ahead and do a rough chop on the garlic to start with. And a step that I like to show, it's not absolutely necessary, but I do like to show this. If we are going to put salt into the recipe calls for 1 teaspoon of salt. This is a good time to add it. The 1 teaspoon to the garlic. And then we're going to use the flat side of our knife to make a garlic paste. And this will more evenly distribute the garlic in the pan with the onions. Now, this is a rustic dish. We don't need a really fine, absolutely all homogeneous garlic paste today with the salt. But just to break it up a little bit, it disperses the salt, it breaks the garlic up just a little bit, so it will distribute itself a little more nicely into this onion, garlic, and eventually meat mixture that we're making. So just the flat side. And the salt is abrasive and is mashing, along with the action of the knife, the garlic into this nice little paste here. That was 2 fairly good-sized cloves of garlic. It gets cooked for a while, so it's a nice amount with everything else that's going on. 2 medium to large garlic cloves is nice for this dish. The onions are starting to caramelize just a little bit, so I'm going to go ahead and incorporate that garlic and salt mixture. And I'm going to turn the heat up now, just for a moment, because I'm about ready to put 1 pound of beautiful ground beef in there. So I know that this, right out of the refrigerator, is going to cool that pan down really quickly. So it's like, you know, typically when you're making something like this, it's not like you're in a huge hurry, right? But maybe you don't want to spend a lot of time in the kitchen. Maybe it's warm. You've got this fresh corn and this casserole going in the oven, and you want to get outside because it's really nice outside. So let's turn it up just a little bit. You can always adjust it. And I can smell the garlic, so that means it's starting to cook. It's getting nice and fragrant. I see a lot of people participating at home. It's fun.
I know, it's really fun.
A lot of people in their kitchens. I should keep an eye on what I'm doing, you know, rather than wow, that's so fun. Look at you all. It's amazing. So this is a really nice 1 pound ground beef. Just breaking it up. And we're gonna cook it. The fat's gonna come out of it. This is actually pretty lean. Again, you have options when you go to the grocery store for fat content in ground beef. I like it all. I like fat. Fat is flavor, folks. I'm sorry, fat is flavor. And it's delicious. But you also have options to buy good quality ground beef with a less fat content if you want. So we're gonna go ahead and let it sit for a few minutes, and I'll come back and stir it around. I'm hearing a nice sizzle. I'm really happy with how it's cooking along. I'm not real concerned with the ground beef about it getting caramelized and crispy and brown, because we're putting it inside of a casserole where it's gonna steam inside of this nice moist casserole dish. So we wanna, cook it all the way through, and that's not necessarily for a safety issue with this, because it's going in the oven for quite some time, but it's just to release all of that beautiful beef flavor that's in there. So that's why we really wanna cook it through all the way with this recipe. Yes, Meg?
Yeah, I have a question for you. What would you say is a good all-around percentage of lean beef for most recipes?
So I would imagine that the website, which is full of good information, has some of that information on there. I'm gonna guess and reach out that I've seen, and what I usually buy is like a 9%, but I know you can get, a 20-80 is available, meaning 20 fat and 80 lean, right? So there's also 9% I see a lot. I'm trying to think when I go in to the store what I mostly see now, what's available. I mean, they're all available, but sometimes something's a little more front and center, meaning maybe that's what more people buy. So, and I also really it depends on your taste. And we're also gonna show you a little method here that we were talking about before class about how to cook this in that wonderful beef fat flavor and then remove some of that fat if you are concerned about that, or if you just want to remove it for whatever reason. You can also drain it off if there's a fair amount of fat, but again, your fat is really good flavor. Okay, so again, just keep breaking that up and letting it go. All right, so we're ready to prepare the corn. Recipe calls for either fresh corn or frozen corn. Either one works, but I thought, we're in summer here and we have fresh corn available, so we're gonna use fresh corn. And I have prepared one of these ahead of time. We had a discussion at a homemade class quite some time ago when I was using fresh corn, and it was brought up through, I think somebody in the chat had said that cooking corn, they learned this method of cooking corn in the microwave at something like 6 minutes, just like this, in the microwave, and then you shuck it and the silk comes off, the inside stringy stuff comes off really easily, and then it's ready to go and to eat. And I loved that tip. And so we had a discussion in the chat about, well, if you're trying to have the corn pretty much raw, maybe just cooked just at barely, but pretty much raw, what about just putting it in the microwave for like 1 minute? So after class, I tested that and it worked so great. And so this was like 1 minute in the microwave, and then this one's been sitting a little bit longer, so let's see if it still works really nicely. Yeah, now it's been sitting there in a little bit, so it's steamed a little bit more, so it's cooked a little bit more, but that's fine, it's going in the casserole. 1 minute like that in the microwave, and then look at that, all that silk pretty much just comes off, and that stuff can be really annoying and really hard to remove. It's not terrible, it's not gonna hurt you, it's not gonna make you sick. It just can be annoying if there's a lot of it, okay? So I found for a standard size ear of corn, it was about 1 ear per cup. So the recipe calls for 2 cups of corn. So again, if you're using frozen, you just measure it out of the bag. And then if you're using fresh, I would say about 1 ear per cup. So I have 2. I'm gonna go ahead and break those in half. And then I wanna show you this little tip where I put a cutting board inside of a cookie sheet because, oh my gosh, there's a theme here in class tonight. And it was completely unintentional. When you're cutting corn off the cob, I have to give the meat a little stir here. When you're cutting corn off the cob, what I find is gravity, it kind of rolls all over the place, so all over the cutting board and then all over the floor. So I like this method where you put your cutting board, small cutting board inside of a cookie sheet. And when you cut it, it stays within the rim of the cookie sheet. And the corn is super easy to clean up. It doesn't make a big mess. So yes, you're using one more piece of equipment, but it doesn't make a big mess. And so we're almost there with the beef. We're gonna add our spices here in just a moment. Let's cut this corn off first. So I broke them in half because, as you can imagine, trying to cut like this, a little bit awkward. So I cut them in half so I have a nice flat surface, and then just take a sharp knife and cut down. You wanna go deep, but not so deep that you're feeling the really fibrous cob, okay? So not too far. And then please don't throw this away. Please do not throw this away. Can I say that one more time? Please do not throw this away.
Liquid gold.
Liquid gold. Soups. Oh my goodness. Soup, soup, soup.
If you're an ice cream maker, like salty corn ice cream.
What?
Is so good. Or you could just
Wait.
do corn creme anglaise.
Wait.
Woo, on a pie.
That's crazy. Crazy good. Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gee, what am I doing tonight? I'm not sleeping. I'm gonna make corn ice cream.
Yeah, just
I
throw
have
those
to.
cobs in your bag and
Will you make that for me sometime?
yeah.
Yeah, in your spare time? Oh my God. See, we're gonna get just about 2 cups. And does it have to be exactly perfect? It's like if you have a 1 3/4, do you have to run to the grocery store? Oh my gosh, I need another. No, 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 no. We're making a casserole, okay? So yes, you wanna be as close as possible, but no, it doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, let's add our spices to this, and we're just about ready to go. So we have chili powder. We have ground cumin, which is pretty traditional and standard in a lot of Latin, Mexican dishes, and dried oregano. You could use fresh. If you're gonna use fresh herbs, you use twice as many. And then we're gonna go ahead and, remember our salt's already in there. Don't add it again because we added it with the garlic. And we're just gonna turn this guy off and let it continue to cook with those spices. Oh my gosh, it's fragrant. And that's all good to go. And now, let's hope the theme with the gravity and things dropping on the floor does not carry through to this next step that I'm going to do, because these beautiful, lovely pans here at Homemade that we want to bake this in are really heavy. Okay, so we're going to very, very carefully lift this pan up and transfer the meat to a bowl. And this way, we're gonna assemble the casserole, and also the meat will cool faster by getting it out of that hot pan. And we're not gonna get too hung up on getting every last little piece of garlic or onion or whatever out of there, because we're gonna bake right in there. Okay, so we're gonna bake right in here. So actually it's seasoned, it's flavored, we wanna do that. Now this beautiful meat that we had did not have a lot of residual fat. There's nothing pooling, there's no fat in there, it's really nice. But I did wanna show you this trick. If there was, and sometimes there is, if you, maybe on sale you bought that ground beef that had a little higher fat content in it, you can take a clean, dried up paper towel, wadded up paper towel, and just kind of blot the beef. And again, we don't have much fat, but if there was, we have some, right? So if you want to remove some of that, you can. Again, that's flavor. but there's options. That's another thing I love about this dish. So much to love. So much to love. Okay, so we'll let that cool a little bit. Get it away from the heat, and we'll finish the corn. So the corn dish, we start with 4 ounces of cream cheese. And then we're just gonna smoosh that around. It's been sitting out at room temperature for a couple of hours, which is perfectly safe with cream cheese. If you forget to pull it out and it's really stiff, you can put it in some kind of a machine and whisk it a little bit. You can put it next to something warm, your oven that's preheating for the casserole. This casserole bakes at 375 for 25 plus minutes if you need a little more. You could put it next to the oven as it's preheating. Okay, so you just want to be able to move it. And then we're going to add our corn. 2 cups, cut off the cob. And if the corn gets a little bit smushed around in there, smashed a little bit because your cream cheese wasn't super, super soft, don't worry about it. You're going to release some of that corn flavor, and it's going to be delicious. We have a 1/4 cup of sour cream that we'll add. And then cilantro. I know not everybody loves cilantro, but it's actually kind of isn't it like something in your DNA? Some people taste like, I've heard people say, it tastes like gym socks. Gross.
I haven't heard that one. I've heard soap.
Soap. I've heard soap too.
But yum, gym
But
sock.
the gym socks was more dramatic than soap. And I have heard it. I didn't just make it up. I have heard that. Gym socks, soap, sweaty stuff. So not everybody loves it. Could you skip it? Of course you could. I have a question. I have a quiz question in the chat. Why I chop up these jalapenos. These are pickled jalapenos. I'm going to chop them up. And my question for you to answer in the chat is, can you name a different name for cilantro? Cilantro's called a couple of things that I know. You guys might all come up with something that I don't know because you do that often. But there's 2 names that I can think of. See what we get there, Meg.
Okay. Diana, would you eat cilantro ice cream?
Once. That's I'll eat anything once, I think. Well, I mean anything that you're supposed to eat once.
What about salsa verde?
know.
What's the word? Like gelato.
Meant as a dessert or meant as a savory item?
Meant as a refreshing item.
Yes. Yeah. Heck yes. With cold shrimp or something. Or what about, okay, see, we're beef. I'm focused on beef because I can smell this beef. What about like a beef carpaccio with a salsa verde little ice thing or something?
Ooh.
That's fancy.
That sounds good.
That's
and
fancy.
Everyone knows. Everyone,
They do.
Yeah.
Both of them?
Everyone said coriander. Oh, wait. Someone said Chinese parsley?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Chinese parsley and fresh coriander, right? Because coriander is actually the seed. But I've heard this, and I've seen it in recipes. It's called fresh coriander. Good job. Y'all are so smart. Oh, I almost forgot. We were talking about the cilantro and I almost forgot to put it in there. So 1/4 cup, if you like it, if you're using it. It's a casserole. You can vary things. Mikhailo, our amazing tech camera person, is chasing me around. Stove, cutting board. You're so good, Mikhailo. Thank you. Okay, so this is, pickled jalapeno juice. Love that. Right out of the jar, if you bought them, or right out of the jar that you made them in. So 2 tablespoons of pickled jalapeno juice. And then we've got our spices again. Some of them are redundant. We have the chili powder, we have the cumin, and a little bit of salt. Remember, there was a fair amount of salt in the dish already. So we have our spices to blend in, and then just some black pepper. That could be optional, but why not? Why not? Okay, so the dish we have that we're baking in tonight is the same one that I cooked the meat and the onions and the garlic in. And it's a little shallow, so about 2 inches, and it's got a lot of surface area. So your cast iron, if you're cooking in a cast iron, your cast iron might have sides that are a little higher. It might be a little smaller. So those are the things that we need to take into consideration when we're cooking. Remember, just a lot about cooking is just common sense. And the recipe, think of the recipe like as a guide. It's just a guide, okay? And you're here because you enjoy cooking or you enjoy learning about food or cooking, so you probably know that. So it's just a guide. So because we have a pretty good size amount of surface area on the bottom, it calls for a third of the elote mixture. I'm actually going to do less layers because it's pretty shallow. So I'm going to go and just do half. Okay, and you could do it 3 for sure. And then, because see all the surface area? We want to make sure that every bite has some of this in there, some of the mixture in there. So we're just going to take a little time to just make sure. It doesn't have to cover it in an even layer. We're just going to make sure that every single portion, when it's cooked and done, and we're sitting down excited to eat this, has that elote mixture in the bottom. Okay, and then on top of that, we're going to let's put half of the beef. You can also layer it a little different if you want. You can put tortillas down the bottom. We're going to put half of the beef, and again, making sure that it's as even as possible so nobody feels left out when they start eating. Where's the beef? Beef, it's what's for dinner. I love that. Those recipes on there are so good. Okay, and then we're going to do the tortillas. And I, ahead of time, put them in a little damp cloth towel, just to keep them moist. You don't want to pull these out early and let them sit on the counter, and because they will dry out. And we're putting them inside of a casserole, and they're going to bake and be moist anyway. But you definitely want to keep as much moisture in as possible. So depending on the size of your tortilla, and this is all pretty straightforward in the recipe, I'm going to just shingle them just a little bit. Let's put 6 in this pan. That seems to work really well here. And again, being fair. Can you tell I had a lot of siblings? Got to be fair. Everybody's got to be fair. It's even. And then we'll sprinkle, it says 1 cup of cheese. So approximately, and this is a mixture, Monterey Jack, mozzarella, and some cheddar. You know what else you could do? What about pepper jack cheese? Do you like pepper jack cheese? I love pepper jack cheese. Now we've got a little kit going on already, so make sure you and whoever you're serving likes a little bit of spice. And then we'll just start that process over again. So we have the elote, followed by that flavorful sauteed ground beef. And then another layer of tortillas. And what goes on top? Hello, cheese, of course, right? More cheese. I've got some fun toppings tonight that are just pair really well with this, optional. In addition to what we have, and I'll show you in a minute, we've got avocado, we have diced green onions, lime, a fresh squeeze of lime, a little extra cilantro. But even, what would be really good on here is even like a salsa. either a homemade salsa or a good one from the farmer's market or the grocery store to serve as a topping. I think that'd be delicious on here. And then if you can notice that there's not a lot of liquid, which is completely fine. I've tested this twice. It's delicious as is. I'm just going to press down just a little bit and then top with the remaining cheese. And then what we're going to do to keep this moist, and as it bakes, we want to keep that steam in. We don't want it to release moisture. Okay, then it could become dry. So we do this technique called tenting. I think the recipe says cover it with foil, which is absolutely correct. We're going to cover it with foil. But I took a standard size of, that's not hot anymore, good. I took a standard roll of foil and tore off 2 sheets, and it's not big enough to cover. That's why took 2, because it's not big enough to cover this pan. We're going to lose steam and moisture out the sides. So I'm just going to put 2 pieces together like this and crimp it or fold it over. And then tenting would be like creating a tent, like something you sleep in. Not me anymore. I used to, not anymore. I like a bed. Like a tent, make like a tent. Maybe my tents look like this, and that's why I don't camp anymore. Pretty sad.
Yeah, just like up against your face while you're sleeping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then why does it always collapse? Like my tent in cooking. You think I'd at least have the cooking experience to create a cooking tent. This I could be judged for. Okay. And why am I creating a tent? 2 reasons. First of all, I've got that delicious layer of cheese, and the foil will stick to the cheese. And then when I take the foil off, stove's talking to me, isn't it? Then when I take the foil off, the cheese is going to be stuck to the foil and come off onto the foil. So this will keep it from doing that. Hopefully. That's the idea anyway. The other reason is by creating that tent, if it's sealed pretty well, and this does not look pretty, but it is sealed pretty well, it's going to create steam inside of there. It's not going to allow the steam to escape. And the steam is actually going to come up into the tented foil and it's flavorful steam. Think about it. Think of all those flavors in there. It's flavorful steam, and it's actually going to kind of come back down onto the casserole and keep flavoring it. It's like a braising technique almost. So those flavors are going to come back into the casserole dish. And then, as the recipe says, you're going to take the foil off at the very end and just brown the top. Okay, so it's not going to be soggy or anything at all. It's just going to keep that nice, flavorful moisture in there. So that's the reason for that. So the magic of TV, we're going to pull the swap out of the oven and take a peek at it. Let's see. And this one actually did get nice and brown on top, maybe a little more than you would typically want, but I don't know. That looks pretty good.
It's looking like it has some nice crispy edges.
Yeah.
It's probably moist in the middle.
Yeah, and you don't have to go quite that far. We were juggling a few things here early on, but I think it's going to be delicious. But anyway, so serving, probably going to need to cut it. We've got a nice spatula here. I think I'll just let it sit for a minute, though. Oh, it's going to be so good. It smells so good. You could almost cut this in like pie shapes if you wanted to. Like a wedge, right?
Totally.
I have a dinner date with my family tonight, but you know what? You won't tell them if I eat this, will you? That I had a pre-dinner. This is the appetizer.
Yeah, that's what my life looks like most days.
Is
I
you have an
my
appetizer
pre-dinner
first?
here, and then I have my real dinner at home.
I did not coat the pan, and you really don't need to. Just be careful removing it. Maybe.
Yeah, or you could kind of like wipe around, because you cooked in it before, you could wipe the grease around a little bit if you were worried about
Yeah, and there was a
sticking.
fair amount of oil in the pan. And it's just like a pie or something. The first slice is always the hardest one to get out. So anyway, the rest of them will be easy. Look at that. It's not stuck to the bottom at all. Nice. And then let's talk about our fun garnishes we have. We got a lot of stuff here tonight. So we'll come back over here and show you what we have for garnishing. Let me wipe my board down with this sanitizing towel just for a minute here. There's nothing too scary on there at all. It's just kind of messy. And we have all kinds of fun things here. Now we have the extra pickled jalapenos that you could put on if you wanted to. And then we have limes, avocado, perfect avocado, by the way. You know what brings a smile to my face is to pick up an avocado the day that you're going to use it, and it's like, it's perfect. Like perfect. I mean, it always just makes me so happy. So perfectly ripe avocado, and we'll cut into that in a minute. A little extra chopped cilantro, cotija, the fresh Mexican cheese, and some green onions. And those are just optional garnishes that I think would be delicious on here. So let's just sprinkle a little bit of the cheese on top with that beautiful caramelized crust of the cheese. I think that looks really nice. And then avocado's been washed ahead of time. And I'm going to go ahead and take a paring knife, cut around the pit, and then give this a little twist. It's so perfect. That actually made me laugh. Usually I just smile when I pick them up, but that actually made me laugh. It's so perfect.
And like a reasonably sized pit. Good yield on that one.
Seriously, it doesn't get any
Color
better.
inspo.
Does it get any better than that? Honestly. And I could use that half that's already pitted, but I did want to show you how to remove that pit because it can be, you definitely don't want to be just digging around down in there with a paring knife point. So I like to take my paring knife and just give it a little tap and then twist, and then it usually just pops right out. And it usually just pops right out. So we're going to go ahead and it didn't today. So I'm going to go ahead and peel this. But you know what I mean, right? Yours just popped right out at home, didn't it? Peel this back. Oh, serving. What do you serve with this? So anything you want, basically. But again, we were talking before class, and I was thinking like a nice fresh slaw of some sort, like a cabbage slaw with some crunch. Tomatoes might be in season where you're at. Would add beautiful color if we had tomatoes. Also fruit that's in season. I know, Meg, you're on a watermelon kick, aren't you?
Yeah, it's too good.
It's so good, and it's so good right now,
Yeah.
right? Crunchy, that watermelon flavor. Oh my gosh, so good.
Like a watermelon avocado salad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Why am I thinking mango too? Mango? Mango would be good. Some kind of a fruit salad. I don't know.
Yeah.
You're furrowing your brow. Mango.
Well, what?
Wait, are you with me on mango or no?
Maybe after.
Maybe after. Maybe with the tequila and a little mango.
Oh yeah,
mango margarita or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, look at that. You want some sour cream on top? Maybe. I don't know. Yum. So good. Anybody have any questions? Are they wondering if the jalapeno's still down there? It's still down there. It's there.
How are our friends who are cooking along doing? Is anyone? Are we still cooking? Are we done? Oh, it's going good. Okay.
I love this. I love this dish. I love the fresh corn in there. Oh my gosh, I just got a nice little, just a really subtle little bit of heat at the end. Oh yay, look at that beautiful one. Oh my goodness, nice job. Beautiful job. Just the nice, I mean, I like spicy food, but if I'm cooking for more than me, and most times I'm cooking for more than me, Not everybody likes as much heat as I do, and so maybe you just tone it down a little bit. And then you can put a few more pickled jalapenos on top of your own dish. So I love just a nice little bit of heat at the end. It's super moist. When I pulled this out of the oven, I was like, yeah, it got brown. It's definitely not too dark, but it's close. A little bit longer, and I would have thought maybe this was too dark. But it's moist, unbelievably moist with that nice crust on top. I'm actually loving this. And with the fresh avocado and some kind of a little side dish, just a piece of fruit. Perfect, I think. Absolutely perfect. So this was really fun. Thank you so much for joining me. Next class is cherry braised short ribs, and that's going to be on August 1st. It's August. Like this week is August. That's unbelievable. So this was super fun. Thanks so much. Eat well, be well. Bye.